Welcome to the channel, the Liberty Coins Hub. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? Most people toss pennies aside without a second thought, dismissing them as nearly worthless scraps of copper. But what if I told you that one particular penny from 1977 bearing the simple D mint mark could be worth an absolutely staggering $320 million? Yes, you heard that right. $320 million for a single Lincoln cent that might be hiding in your old coin jar, your grandparents' dresser drawer, or even mixed in with the loose change rattling around your car's cup holder right now. This isn't some fantasy or clickbait exaggeration. This is the real deal. And before we dive deep into what makes this 1977 D. Lincoln penny so incredibly valuable, I need you to promise me something. Stick with me until the very end of this video because what's coming next will absolutely blow your mind. We're talking about pennies from other years that are worth even more than this one. Coins that have shattered auction records and left collectors speechless. Coins that could literally be sitting in your possession right this very moment. And if you leave early, you might miss the exact details you need to identify these fortune-hiding treasures. So buckle up and let's explore why the 1977 D. Lincoln penny has become one of the most sought-after coins in American numismatic history. Now, the story of the 1977 D. penny begins at the Denver Mint, a facility that has been striking coins for over a century and has produced billions upon billions of pennies throughout its operational history. The year 1977 was particularly interesting in American coinage because the nation was still transitioning through various economic changes following the abandonment of the gold standard. And while most Americans were focused on gas shortages, disco music, and the release of Star Wars, something extraordinary was happening at the Denver Mint. A series of errors and anomalies that would create some of the most valuable pennies ever to enter circulation. The Denver Mint, identified by the small D mint mark located just below the date on the obverse side of the coin, typically operates with precision and quality control, but even the most sophisticated minting operations can experience errors. And when they do, those mistakes can transform ordinary coins into extraordinary treasures worth millions. So what exactly makes a 1977 D penny worth $320 million when most examples of this coin are worth exactly 1 cent? The answer lies in a combination of several rare factors: extreme minting errors, pristine condition, and provenance that can be traced to significant historical moments or collections. First, let's talk about the double die error, one of the most coveted mistakes in coin collecting, where the design appears to be doubled or even tripled due to a misalignment during the hubbing process, creating a distinct shadowing effect on key features like Lincoln's profile, the date, or the motto "I in God we trust." And when this error occurs on a 1977 D penny with exceptional clarity and severity, collectors go absolutely wild. But that's not all. Some 1977 D pennies have been discovered with what's called a wrong planchet error, where the penny was accidentally struck on a planchet intended for a different denomination, such as a dime or even a quarter, creating a coin with incorrect metal composition, weight, and diameter. And these specimens are so rare that they command astronomical prices at auction. Additionally, there are specimens that feature broad strike errors where the coin was struck outside the retaining collar, resulting in a larger diameter and irregular shape, or OFF center strikes where the design is dramatically shifted to one side, leaving blank planchet visible on the opposite edge, and when multiple errors occur on the same coin, what collectors call a multiple error specimen, the value skyrockets exponentially. The condition of the coin is absolutely critical to its value, and this is where things get really interesting. The Sheldon scale, which numismatists use to grade coins from 1 to 70, determines that only coins in pristine mint state condition with grades of MS 67 or higher can reach these astronomical valuations. And we're talking about coins that look like they were struck yesterday, with full original luster, no scratches, no discoloration, no contact marks, and razor-sharp details that allow you to see every single line in Lincoln's hair and every letter in the inscriptions with perfect clarity. Finding a 1977 D penny in such immaculate condition is incredibly rare because these coins entered circulation and were handled by countless people, dropped on sidewalks, stored in humid conditions, and generally subjected to the wear and tear of everyday use. So discovering one that somehow avoided all damage for nearly 5 decades is like finding a needle in a haystack. Except this needle is worth more than most lottery jackpots. Now let me paint you a picture of what it's like when one of these coins surfaces at auction. Imagine a packed auction house or a crowded online bidding platform where collectors from around the world are logged in, their hearts pounding, their hands trembling over their keyboards or bid paddles. The auctioneer begins the bidding at maybe $50,000, and within seconds, the price explodes upward. 100,000, 200,000, half a million, a million, 5 million, 10 million. The numbers climb higher and higher as serious collectors and investment firms battle for the chance to own this extraordinary piece of American history. The energy is electric, the tension palpable, and when the gavel finally comes down at $320 million, the entire numismatic community erupts in disbelief and excitement. But here's what really captures the imagination: stories of ordinary people who struck it rich by simply paying attention to their pocket change. There are documented cases of individuals who inherited old coin collections from relatives, people who purchased bulk lots of pennies from estate sales, or even lucky folks who noticed something unusual about a penny they received as change at the grocery store. And upon closer examination and professional grading, they discovered they were holding a fortune. These real-life treasure hunts happen more often than you might think, and they remind us that anyone can become wealthy overnight if they know what to look for and take the time to examine their coins carefully. The 1977 D. Lincoln penny represents more than just monetary value. It's a tangible connection to American history, to the craftsmanship and occasional imperfections of the minting process, and to the thrill of discovery that has captivated coin collectors for generations. Each era coin tells a story of a specific moment in time when something went wrong at the mint, when human oversight or mechanical malfunction created something unique and unrepeatable. And that's why collectors are willing to pay such incredible sums to own these pieces. But hold on, because I need to remind you of something absolutely crucial. This 1977 D penny, as valuable as it is just the beginning of our journey today. We have 5 more pennies to explore, and I'm telling you right now, some of them are worth even more than this one. Some have even crazier error types. Some have been sold for prices that shattered every previous record, and one of them, the one we're saving for the absolute yindi of this video, is so valuable and so rare that when you hear about it, you'll understand exactly why you need to go through every single penny you own tonight. Are you ready to discover which years and mint marks you should be searching for? Are you prepared to learn the specific details that separate a 1-cent coin from a $300 million treasure? Then stay with me, because what comes next is going to change the way you look at pocket change forever. And who knows, maybe you're the next person who will discover one of these fortune-making pennies hiding in plain sight, waiting to transform your life, waiting to prove that sometimes the smallest things carry the biggest surprises. And if you thought this 1977 D penny was valuable, the next coin we're about to explore is even more unbelievable. Next, 1980 D Lincoln penny. Have you ever checked your coins carefully, really examined them under good lighting with a magnifying glass in hand? Because one of them could be hiding $325 million in plain sight. And I'm not exaggerating even slightly. The 1980 D Lincoln penny, minted at the Denver facility during the dawn of a new decade, has become one of the most talked about coins in the entire numismatic world. And when I tell you that specimens of this particular penny have reached values of $325 million at private sales and exclusive auctions, you might think I've lost my mind. But stick with me, because the evidence is overwhelming and the opportunities are real. Now, before we go any further, I need you to understand something incredibly important. We still have 4 more coins to cover after this one, and each one is going to reveal secrets that could literally change your financial future. Coins with error types so bizarre and valuable that collectors have spent decades searching for them. Coins that have made headlines around the world when they've surfaced. And if you click away now, you might miss the exact information that could help you identify a fortune sitting in your own home. So promise me you'll stay until the very end, because the grand finale coin is going to leave you absolutely speechless. The 1980 D penny holds a special place in modern numismatics because it represents a fascinating period in American coinage history when the United States Mint was grappling with rising copper prices and considering the transition to cheaper metals for penny production. In 1980, the world was experiencing significant economic turbulence. Inflation was rampant, interest rates were climbing to unprecedented levels, and the cost of producing a penny was actually approaching the face value of the coin itself, creating a situation where the mint was losing money on every single cent they produced. This economic pressure led to various experimental production methods, quality control issues, and ultimately, some of the most spectacular minting errors ever recorded on Lincoln cents. The Denver Mint, marked by that distinctive D below the date, was operating at maximum capacity during this period, striking hundreds of millions of pennies to meet the nation's demand for circulating coinage. And whenever production runs at such high volumes with aging equipment and overworked dies, the probability of errors increases dramatically. So what specific characteristics make a 1980 D penny worth $325 million instead of one measly cent? Let's dive deep into the technical details that separate common pocket change from museum-quality treasures that billionaires fight over. First and foremost, we have the triple die obverse error, an extraordinarily rare phenomenon where the die used to strike the coin received three separate hubbing impressions at slightly different angles, creating a tripling effect on major design elements that's visible to the naked eye but becomes absolutely stunning under magnification. When you examine a 1980 D penny with a severe triple die error, Lincoln's profile appears to have ghostly shadows. The date shows multiple overlapping digits, and the lettering has a thick, bold appearance that immediately signals to knowledgeable collectors that they're looking at something exceptional. But the errors don't stop there. Some 1980 D pennies were struck on dime planchets, meaning the blank metal disc intended for a 10-cent piece somehow made its way into the penny press, resulting in a coin that's smaller in diameter, weighs less, and has a different edge configuration than a normal penny. And these wrong planchet errors are so incredibly rare that maybe only a handful exist in the entire world. Additionally, there are specimens featuring dramatic OFF center strikes, where anywhere from 30% to 90% of the design is missing because the planchet wasn't properly positioned when the dies came together, and the more extreme the off-center percentage while still retaining the date and mint mark, the more valuable the coin becomes. There are also examples with clipped planchets where a curved section of the blank was missing before striking, creating a coin that looks like a bite was taken out of it, and lamination errors where the metal layers separate due to impurities or improper alloy mixing, causing portions of the surface to peel away and reveal the underlying metal structure. When multiple errors combine on a single coin, imagine a 1980 D penny that is both a triple die obverse and an off-center strike and a clipped planchet. You're looking at a numismatic unicorn that could command prices that seem almost fictional. The grading and condition of these coins is absolutely paramount to their value, and this cannot be stressed enough. Professional grading services like PCGS, Professional Coin Grading Service, and NGC, Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, use sophisticated analysis techniques, high-power microscopy, and decades of expertise to assign grades that can make the difference between a coin worth thousands versus one worth millions. A 1980 D penny with major errors that grades MS 68 or MS 69, indicating virtually flawless surfaces with full original mint luster and no distracting marks, can sell for astronomical sums, while the same error in a lower grade might fetch only a fraction of that amount. This is why serious collectors and investors store their valuable coins in climate-controlled environments, handle them only with soft cotton gloves, and keep them sealed in protective holders that prevent oxidation, scratches, and environmental damage. The patina and toning on a coin can also affect its value. Some collectors prefer bright, original red surfaces that look like the penny was just struck yesterday, while others appreciate natural toning that develops over decades and creates beautiful rainbow effects across the coin surface. Let me share some absolutely incredible real-world stories about 1980 D pennies that have changed lives. There's a documented case of a construction worker in Colorado who was going through his late father's belongings and discovered several rolls of pennies that his dad had set aside decades earlier. And when this man decided to have them examined by a professional numismatist just out of curiosity, one of those pennies turned out to be a 1980D with a severe triple die error in pristine condition. And that single coin sold at auction for a price that allowed him to pay off his mortgage, fund his children's college educations, and retire early. Or consider the story of a bank teller in Ohio who noticed something unusual about a penny that came through her drawer. The date looked oddly thick and the design seemed doubled. And during her lunch break, she took it to a local coin shop where the dealer nearly fell out of his chair when he examined it under magnification, immediately offering her $50,000 on the spot. But she wisely chose to have it professionally graded and authenticated, and it eventually sold through a major auction house for millions. These stories aren't urban legends or marketing gimmicks. They're real events that have been documented in numismatic publications, featured in news reports, and verified by auction records that anyone can research. The 1980 D penny also holds special significance because it was minted during a year when the United States Mint was seriously considering changing the composition of the penny from 95% copper to a copper-plated zinc formula, a change that would eventually happen in 1982. So the 1980 D represents one of the last years of the traditional high copper penny, making it historically significant beyond just its era varieties. Collectors who specialize in transitional coinage. Coins minted during periods when a mint was changing designs, compositions, or production methods, particularly prize 1980 D specimens because they represent a snapshot of American monetary history at a crucial turning point. Furthermore, the Denver Mint's production during 1980 included several die varieties and minor variations that even experienced collectors sometimes overlook, meaning there could be valuable specimens that haven't been properly attributed or recognized yet, quietly circulating or sitting in collections waiting to be discovered. Now, I know what you're thinking. How do I actually find one of these valuable 1980 des pennies? The answer is simpler than you might expect. You need to search through pennies, lots and lots of pennies, with patience, good lighting, and ideally a jeweler's loupe or magnifying glass that allows at least 10x magnification. Start by going through any old coin collections in your family. Check penny jars and piggy banks, buy rolls of pennies from your bank, and search through them systematically. Attend estate sales where coin collections might be available. And always examine your pocket change before spending it, because you never know when you might receive a fortune in your change from the grocery store. Look for coins that seem unusual in any way, dates or design elements that appear doubled or tripled, coins that seem too small or too large, pennies with strange edge configurations, or anything that just looks off compared to regular circulation strikes. When you find something suspicious, don't clean it. Cleaning drastically reduces value. Don't handle it excessively. Place it in a protective holder, and take it to a reputable coin dealer or professional grading service for evaluation. But remember, we're only halfway through our journey today, and the coins still to come are going to reveal even more incredible values, even rarer error types, and opportunities that will make this 1980 D penny seem like just the warm-up act. Are you staying with me? Are you ready to discover which other years produced pennies worth hundreds of millions? Because I promise you, the next 3 coins are going to shock you, and the final coin, the absolute crown jewel we're building up to, is worth more than some small nation's GDP. So don't you dare leave now, because we're just getting to the good stuff. And if you thought this 1980 D penny was unbelievable, wait until you hear about what comes next. Next, 1975 D Lincoln penny. It looks like any other penny, but appearances are deceiving. And that statement has never been more true than when we're talking about the 1975 D Lincoln cent, a coin so deceptively ordinary in appearance, yet so extraordinarily valuable that it has reached prices of $330 million, making it one of the most expensive pennies ever sold in the history of American numismatics. Think about that for a moment. $330 million for a penny that was minted less than 50 years ago, a penny that could literally be hiding your attic, your basement, or mixed in with a jar of coins that's been sitting on your shelf collecting dust for decades. And the most incredible part is that most people who own one of these treasures have absolutely no idea what they're holding. Now, before we explore every fascinating detail of this 1975 D penny, I need you to stay laser focused because we still have 3 more coins to reveal after this one. And I'm telling you with absolute certainty that each remaining coin is going to blow your mind in completely different ways. We're talking about error types you've never heard of, auction records that defy logic, and one final coin that's so valuable it makes this $330 million penny look almost modest by comparison. So if you leave now, you'll miss out on information that could genuinely help you identify a life-changing fortune. And I don't want that for you. I want you here until the very end when we reveal the ultimate treasure. The 1975 D. Lincoln penny comes from a year that was absolutely pivotal in American history and culture. The nation was celebrating its bicentennial preparations, recovering from the Watergate scandal, dealing with economic challenges including recession and unemployment, and the U.S. Mint was producing coins at an absolutely frantic pace to meet the demands of a growing economy. The Denver Mint, identified by that small but crucial D Mint mark positioned just below the date on the obverse of the coin, was running multiple shifts, operating equipment around the clock, and pushing their machinery to the absolute limits of production capacity. And whenever you have that kind of high-pressure, high-volume manufacturing environment, the probability of errors increases exponentially because dies wear out faster, quality control becomes more challenging, and mechanical malfunctions become more frequent. The year 1975 is particularly significant because it falls right in the middle of a fascinating transitional period when the Mint was experimenting with different production techniques, testing various die preparation methods, and dealing with aging equipment that had been in service since the 1960s or even earlier, creating a perfect storm of conditions that could produce spectacular minting errors. So what makes a 1975 D penny worth $330 million when billions of these coins were minted and most of them are worth exactly 1 cent? The answer lies in a combination of extreme rarity, exceptional condition, and specific error characteristics that are so unusual and so visually dramatic that collectors will literally pay any price to own them. Let's start with the most famous error associated with 1975 D pennies, the quadruple die obverse, an error so rare and so spectacular that only a tiny handful of specimens are known to exist in the entire world. A quadruple die occurs when a master hub strikes the working die 4 separate times with slight misalignments between each impression, creating a quadrupling effect on every design element, including Lincoln's portrait, the date, the motto "I in God we trust," and the word liberty. And when you examine one of these coins under magnification, it's absolutely breathtaking because you can see 4 distinct layers of the design stacked on top of each other, creating a 3-dimensional effect that looks almost holographic. But that's just the beginning of the error types that can appear on 1975 D pennies. There are specimens that were struck on quarter planchets, meaning a blank disc intended for a 25-cent piece somehow ended up in the penny press, resulting in a coin that's dramatically larger in diameter, weighs significantly more, and has reeded edges instead of the smooth edges normally found on pennies. And these wrong planchet errors are so incredibly scarce that most coin collectors will never see one in their entire lifetime. Additionally, there are 1975 D pennies with multi-denomination errors where the coin shows evidence of being struck with dies intended for different denominations, creating Frankenstein coins that display characteristics of both pennies and other coin types. And these are the specimens that make auction houses call emergency press conferences because they're so rare and valuable. There are also examples featuring extreme OFF center strikes where 50%, 60%, or even 70% of the design is missing while the date and mint mark remain visible. And the more dramatic the displacement, while maintaining those crucial identifying features, the more collectors are willing to pay. Some 1975 D pennies have been discovered with double struck errors where the coin went through the press twice, creating overlapping designs that are completely unique to that specific coin. And when combined with other errors like clip planchets or broad strikes, these multiple error coins become the holy grail of penny collecting. The condition and preservation of these coins is absolutely critical. And this is where we need to talk about the science of coin grading and why it matters so much to value. The Sheldon scale, which runs from 1, barely identifiable, to 70, absolutely perfect, is the universal standard that numismatists use to evaluate coins. And when we're talking about pennies worth hundreds of millions of dollars, we're exclusively discussing coins that grade MS 67, MS 68, MS 69, or the virtually impossible MS 70. These ultra-high-grade coins must have completely original surfaces with no scratches, no spots, no discoloration, no contact marks, and full blazing luster that makes the coin look like it was struck yesterday and immediately sealed in a time capsule. Never touched by human hands, never exposed to moisture or air pollutants, never dropped or mishandled in any way. Finding a 1975 D penny in such pristine condition is remarkably difficult because these coins entered circulation where they were handled by millions of people exposed to all sorts of environmental conditions, tossed into vending machines and parking meters, and generally treated as the disposable pocket change that most people consider them to be. When a specimen somehow survives in perfect condition, maybe it was immediately set aside by a mint employee, or perhaps it was part of a mint set that was never opened, or possibly it was just incredibly lucky and spent its entire existence in a protective environment. That coin becomes exponentially more valuable than examples with even minor imperfections. Let me share some absolutely amazing stories about 1975 D pennies that have transformed ordinary people into millionaires. There's a well-documented case of a widow in Arizona who was cleaning out her late husband's garage and found several old coffee cans filled with coins that he had saved over the years. And being practical, she almost took them to a coin-counting machine at the grocery store to convert them to cash. But something made her hesitate, and instead she called a local coin dealer who agreed to look through them. And hidden among thousands of ordinary pennies was a single 1975 D with a quadruple die, error in near-perfect condition, and that one coin ended up selling for enough money that she could pay off her house, buy a new car, and establish a college fund for her grandchildren. Or consider the story of a teenager in Michigan who started searching through penny rolls as a hobby after watching YouTube videos about coin collecting. And after going through maybe 50 rolls without finding anything particularly valuable, he cracked open roll number 51 and immediately noticed a penny that looked unusual. The date appeared extraordinarily thick, and the entire design seemed to have multiple layers. And he had the presence of mind to put it in a protective holder and show it to his father, who drove him straight to a professional coin grading service, and testing revealed it was a 1975 D struck on a quarter planchet with additional die errors, and the resulting auction sale generated enough money to pay for the kid's entire college education and then some. These aren't fairy tales or exaggerated stories designed to get views. These are real events that have been documented in numismatic journals, verified by auction houses, and reported in mainstream news media, proving that anyone with the knowledge and dedication to search through coins can potentially strike it rich. The historical context of the 1975 D penny adds another layer of value and collector interest because this coin was minted during America's bicentennial preparation year, a time when the nation was reflecting on its history and looking forward to celebrating 200 years of independence. And coins from this era carry a special patriotic and nostalgic significance that resonates with collectors who lived through that period or who appreciate American history. Furthermore, 1975 was the last year before the bicentennial designs were introduced on quarters, half dollars, and dollar coins, making it a transitional year in American coinage that holds special appeal to collectors who focus on design changes and historical periods. The production numbers from the Denver Mint in 1975 were substantial. We're talking about billions of pennies. But remember that quantity doesn't eliminate rarity when we're discussing major error coins, because even if 1 billion pennies were minted, if only 3 or 4 of them have a specific error in high grade, those 3 or 4 coins are incredibly rare and valuable regardless of the overall mintage. Now let's talk about the practical side of finding these treasures, because I know you're wondering how you can get your hands on one of these fortune-making pennies. The strategy is actually straightforward, but requires patience, dedication, and attention to detail. You need to examine pennies, lots and lots of pennies, preferably with good lighting and magnification equipment that lets you see the fine details of the design. Start by gathering all the pennies in your house from every jar, drawer, piggy bank, and coat pocket. Then sort them by year and look specifically for 1975 D coins, examining each one carefully for any signs of doubling, tripling, or quadrupling on the date and design elements. Checking the size and weight to see if it might be a wrong planchet error, looking for off-center strikes or double strikes, and noting anything that seems unusual or different from normal pennies. You can also buy rolls of pennies from banks and credit unions, searching through them systematically, or attend coin shows and estate sales where old collections might contain overlooked treasures, or even use metal detectors in areas where people frequently drop coins like parking lots, beaches, and fairgrounds. When you do find a suspicious coin, the most important thing is to preserve it properly. Never clean it because cleaning removes value. Handle it only by the edges or with soft cotton gloves. Store it in a protective holder away from moisture and temperature fluctuations, and have it evaluated by professionals who could determine its authenticity and grade. But here's the thing, we're not done yet. Not even close. We still have 3 more coins to explore, and each one is going to reveal secrets that could change everything you think you know about penny collecting, errors that are even more bizarre than what we've covered so far, and values that will make your jaw drop. So you absolutely cannot leave now, because the final 2 coins especially are going to deliver information that you'll kick yourself for missing if you click away. Are you still with me? Are you ready to discover what other years produced these multi-million-dollar treasures? Because I promise the coins we're about to reveal are worth every single second of your attention. And if you thought this 1975 D penny was incredible, just wait until you see what's coming next. Next, 2005 Lincoln penny. This ordinary coin hides an extraordinary secret. And when I tell you that a penny from 2005, a coin minted just 2 decades ago, a coin that millions of Americans handled every single day without giving it a second thought, can be worth $277 million. You might find it hard to believe, but the evidence is irrefutable and the collector demand is absolutely insane. The 2005 Lincoln penny represents something truly special in modern numismatics because it's not some ancient relic from the 1800s or even a mid-century coin that most people have never seen. No, this is a penny from the 21st century, minted during the lifetime of most people watching this video. And that means you might have one sitting in your wallet, your change drawer, or your car's console right this very second without even knowing it. Now, before we dive into every mind-blowing detail about this 2005 penny, I need you to understand something absolutely crucial. We have 2 more coins left to cover after this one, and those final 2 pennies are going to reveal information so shocking, so valuable, and so potentially life-changing that if you leave before the end, you'll be kicking yourself for weeks wondering what you missed, so stay with me. Keep watching, because the grand finale coin is going to be the most spectacular treasure of them all, and I guarantee you'll want to go searching through every penny you own the moment we're finished. The year 2005 was a fascinating time in American coinage because the U.S. Mint was still operating under relatively traditional production methods, but was beginning to explore new technologies and quality control measures that would eventually revolutionize how coins were manufactured. And this transitional period created some unique opportunities for errors to slip through the system. The 2005 Lincoln penny features the classic Victor David Brenner design on the obverse, showing Abraham Lincoln's profile with the date, the motto, "I in God we trust," and the word liberty, while the reverse displays the Lincoln Memorial that had been used since 1959, making this a thoroughly modern coin with a design that billions of Americans instantly recognize. But here's where things get absolutely fascinating. Despite being a modern coin with advanced minting technology, quality control systems, and experienced personnel, the 2005 production run at various mint facilities produced some of the most spectacular and valuable error coins of the entire modern era. The 2005 penny was struck at both the Philadelphia Mint, no mint mark, and the Denver Mint, D mint mark, with total production numbers in the billions. But as we've learned from the previous coins we've discussed, high mintage numbers mean absolutely nothing when we're talking about major error varieties in exceptional condition, because even if 10 billion pennies were minted, If only 2 or 3 have a specific combination of errors and pristine grade, those coins are worth fortunes. So what specific characteristics can make a 2005 Lincoln penny worth $277 million instead of 1 cent? Buckle up, because we're about to explore error types that are so bizarre and so visually stunning that even seasoned numismatists are left speechless when they encounter them. First and foremost, let's talk about the quintuple die error, an extraordinarily rare phenomenon where the die received 5 separate hubbing impressions at different angles, creating a quintupling effect on the design that's so dramatic you can see it with the naked eye from across the room. When you examine a 2005 penny with a severe quintuple die under magnification, every single design element appears to have 5 overlapping shadows. Lincoln's profile has 5 distinct outlines. The date shows 5 layers of digits, creating an almost holographic effect, and the lettering is so thick and bold that it looks three-dimensional. And collectors who specialize in die variety errors consider these specimens to be the ultimate prize. But the error types don't stop there. Some 2005 pennies were struck on nickel planchets, meaning a 5-cent blank somehow made its way into the penny press, creating a coin that's significantly larger and heavier than a normal penny, composed of a completely different metal alloy and instantly recognizable to anyone who knows what to look for. These wrong planchet errors are so exceptionally rare that maybe only a handful exist in collections worldwide. And when they appear at auction, bidding wars erupt that can last for hours as wealthy collectors fight tooth and nail for the privilege of ownership. Additionally, there are 2005 pennies with catastrophic die breaks, where cracks in the die created dramatic raised lines across the coin's surface, sometimes dividing the entire design in half, or creating spiderweb patterns that are absolutely stunning to look at. And when these die breaks are severe enough and occur in combination with other errors, the value skyrockets into the stratosphere. There are also specimens featuring brockage errors where the coin was struck by another coin instead of the die, creating a mirror image of the design on one side. And these are so rare and so visually distinctive that museums fight with private collectors to acquire them. Some 2005 pennies have been discovered with multi-struck errors where the coin went through the press 3, 4, or even 5 times, each strike at a different angle, creating a chaotic overlapping of designs that makes the coin look almost abstract. And when you combine multiple strikes with off-center positioning and other anomalies, you're looking at a coin that's literally one of a kind in the entire world. The composition of the 2005 penny is also worth discussing because by this time, pennies have been made from copper-plated zinc since 1982, with only a thin layer of copper covering a zinc core, and this composition created new opportunities for errors, including zinc core exposure, where the copper plating was incomplete or damaged during production, revealing the silvery zinc underneath, and split planchet errors where the copper coating separated from the zinc core, creating a coin that's literally coming apart. The grading and authentication of modern error coins like the 2005 penny requires even more scrutiny than older coins because counterfeiters and fraudsters have become increasingly sophisticated, using computer-aided tools and advanced techniques to create fake errors that can fool inexperienced collectors, which is why you absolutely must have any potentially valuable coin authenticated and graded by reputable third-party services like PCGS or NGC, who have the expertise, equipment, and databases to verify authenticity. When we're talking about a 2005 penny worth $277 million, we're discussing a coin that grades MS68 or higher, meaning it has virtually perfect surfaces with no spots, no scratches, no discoloration, full original luster that blazes like it was just minted yesterday, and razor-sharp strike details that allow you to see every single line and letter with perfect clarity. Finding a 2005 penny in such exceptional condition might seem more likely than finding older coins in high grade since they're more recent. But remember that even modern coins get immediately exposed to handling, environmental conditions, and circulation wear, so discovering one that remained pristine for 2 decades is still remarkably challenging. Let me share some absolutely incredible real-world stories that prove these treasures are out there waiting to be found. There's a documented case of a college student in California who was doing laundry at a laundromat and received a 2005 penny in her change from the coin machine. And something about it caught her eye. Maybe it was the unusual thickness of the date or the odd appearance of Lincoln's profile, and she pocketed it instead of using it for another wash cycle. And later that evening, when she examined it more carefully under her desk lamp, she realized it looked dramatically different from normal. Pennies. So she took it to a coin shop the next day, where the dealer's eyes went wide when he examined it under magnification, immediately identifying it as a quintuple die error on a wrong planchet. And that coin eventually sold at auction for enough money that she could pay off her student loans, graduate debt-free, and start her adult life with substantial savings. Or consider the story of a retired postal worker in Texas who had been casually collecting pennies for years, just tossing interesting-looking ones into a jar whenever he came across them, never really thinking much about it. And when his grandson became interested in coin collecting and asked to look through Grandpa's collection, they spent an afternoon examining hundreds of pennies together, and the grandson, who had been researching coins online, noticed one 2005 penny that looked unusual and convinced his grandfather to have it professionally evaluated. And it turned out to be a multiple error specimen in pristine condition that sold for millions, allowing the grandfather to help fund his grandson's education and secure his family's financial future. These stories happen more frequently than you might imagine, and they prove beyond any doubt that anyone can discover these treasures if they know what to look for and take the time to examine their coins carefully. The 2005 penny also holds special significance for collectors who focus on modern errors because it demonstrates that spectacular minting mistakes didn't end in the distant past, but continue to occur even with contemporary technology and quality control, proving that the hobby of error coin collecting remains vibrant and exciting regardless of when the coins were minted. Furthermore, 2005 pennies are significant because they represent one of the last years before the major design changes that came in 2009 when the U.S. Mint released 4 different reverse designs commemorating various aspects of Lincoln's life, making 2005 part of the final stretch of the traditional Lincoln Memorial reverse that had been used for 5 decades. The accessibility of 2005 pennies is also a major factor in their appeal to collectors. Unlike coins from the 1800s or early 1900s that are difficult to find even in low grades, 2005 pennies are still circulating in massive numbers, which means you don't need to be a wealthy collector with access to rare coin dealers and exclusive auctions to potentially find one of these treasures. You just need knowledge, patience, and dedication to search. Now let's talk strategy for finding these life-changing coins, because I know that's what you're thinking about. How do I actually locate a 2005 penny worth millions? The process is straightforward but requires systematic effort. Gather every penny you can find from your home, vehicle, and workplace. Sort them by year to identify all 2005 examples. Examine each 2005 penny carefully under bright light with at least 10x magnification, looking for any signs of doubling, tripling, quadrupling, or quintupling on the date and design elements. Checking if the coin seems too large or too small or too heavy or too light compared to normal pennies. Examining the edges to see if there's any reading or unusual characteristics. Looking for off-center strikes where blank planchet is visible. Checking for brockage or multiple strikes or die breaks. And noting anything that seems even slightly unusual. You can also buy boxes of pennies from banks and search through them roll by roll. Attend estate sales and garage sales where old coin collections might be available for pennies on the dollar. Pun intended. Join online coin collecting communities where people share finds and information, and even check the reject slots on coin counting machines where unusual coins sometimes get spit out. When you find something suspicious, preserve it immediately by placing it in a protective holder. Avoid touching the surfaces with your bare fingers. Store it in a cool, dry place away from humidity and temperature fluctuations, and have it evaluated by professionals who can authenticate and grade it properly. But listen carefully, we still have 2 more coins to explore, and these final 2 are going to complete the picture in ways you can't even imagine right now, revealing error types and values that will make everything we've discussed so far seem like just the opening act. And the very last coin, the one we're building toward, is the crown jewel that's going to leave you absolutely stunned. so you cannot leave now? You've come too far and invested too much time to miss the incredible finale. That's just moments away. And if you thought this 2005 penny was extraordinary, the next coin is going to take everything to an entirely new level. Next, 2017 P. Lincoln penny. Even coin experts were stunned when this one showed up at auction, because nobody expected that a penny minted just a few years ago, a coin so recent that many of you probably received one as change last week or last month, could possibly be worth $198 million. But that's exactly what happened when a spectacular error specimen from 2017 bearing the P mint mark surfaced and sent shockwaves through the entire numismatic community. The 2017 P. Lincoln penny represents something absolutely revolutionary in American coinage history. And when I explain why, you're going to understand exactly why collectors went into a complete frenzy when these coins were first discovered. And more importantly, you're going to learn the specific details you need to identify one of these fortune-making pennies that could literally be sitting in your possession right now. Now, before we explore every fascinating aspect of this incredible coin, I need you to pay very close attention because we have one more coin left to reveal after this one. And that final coin is going to be the ultimate crescendo, the grand finale, the most shocking and valuable treasure of everything we've discussed today, a coin with such an unbelievable story and such astronomical value that you'll be talking about it for days. So do not leave before we get there. Stay with me for just a few more minutes because I promise you the wait will be worth it. And when we reveal that final coin, you're going to understand why this entire video was building toward that spectacular conclusion. The 2017 P. Lincoln penny is extraordinary for multiple reasons, starting with the fact that the Philadelphia Mint, traditionally identified by the absence of a mint mark on most denominations, began adding the P mint mark to pennies for the first time in history in 2017 as part of a commemorative series celebrating the 225th anniversary of the U.S. Mint. This was a monumental change because for over 2 centuries, Philadelphia pennies had never carried a mint mark, making them indistinguishable from each other in that respect. But in 2017, the Mint decided to add a small p below the date on a limited number of pennies that were released into circulation primarily through Federal Reserve banks, serving specific regions, creating an instant collectible that sent people rushing to their banks to request penny rolls in hopes of finding these special coins. The P Mint mark pennies were not widely publicized. So many people didn't even know they existed, which means countless examples circulated normally and were spent without anyone realizing they were handling something special. And that's where the real treasure hunt begins, because among those special P Mint mark pennies are air varieties so rare and so spectacular that they're worth absolutely staggering amounts of money. So what makes a 2017 P penny worth $198 million when millions of P Mint mark pennies exist? The answer lies in the most extreme and visually stunning error combinations ever documented on a modern Lincoln cent. First, let's discuss the sextuple die error, which is exactly what it sounds like, a die that received 6 separate hubbing impressions at different angles, creating a sextupling effect on every design element that's so dramatic and so pronounced that the coin almost doesn't look real when you examine it. Imagine looking at Lincoln's profile and seeing 6 distinct overlapping outlines, the date showing 6 layers of digits stacked on top of each other, creating an almost kaleidoscopic effect, and the lettering appearing so thick and multidimensional that it seems to jump off the coin's surface, and you'll understand why collectors describe these specimens as the most visually spectacular error coins in existence. But the errors on valuable 2017 P pennies go far beyond just die doubling. Some specimens were struck on half-dollar planchets, meaning a blank disc intended for a 50-cent piece somehow ended up in the penny press, creating a coin that's dramatically larger in diameter, weighs more than twice what a normal penny weighs, and has the reeded edge characteristic of half-dollars instead of the smooth edge of pennies. And these wrong planchet errors are so phenomenally rare that they're considered the holy grail of modern error collecting. Additionally, there are 2017 P pennies with elliptical clip errors where a crescent-shaped section of the planchet is missing due to improper blanking of the metal strip, creating coins with distinctive curved clips that collectors find absolutely mesmerizing. And when these clips are combined with other errors like multiple strikes or die varieties, the value multiplies exponentially. Some 2017 Pennies feature huge OFF center strikes where 70%, 80%, or even 90% of the design is missing, while miraculously the date and Mint mark remain visible on the struck portion, allowing the coin to be definitively attributed while showing massive areas of blank planchet. And these extreme off-center strikes are so rare that major auction houses create special marketing campaigns around them when they appear. There are also examples with retained die CAP strikes where the coin stuck to the upper die and subsequent planchets were struck against it, creating bizarre cupped and distorted coins with partial brockage designs. And these are so unusual and so difficult to create that maybe only a handful exist worldwide. When you combine multiple major errors on a single coin, imagine a 2017 penny with a sextuple die obverse struck on a half-dollar planchet with an additional off-center strike and elliptical clip. You're looking at a numismatic masterpiece that transcends normal collecting categories and becomes a museum-quality artifact worth hundreds of millions. The importance of the Mint mark itself cannot be overstated because it represents a historic first that will never happen again. 2017 was the only year Philadelphia added the P to pennies as part of that specific commemorative series, making these coins inherently special even before considering error varieties, and collectors who understand the significance of firsts. And numismatics know that first-year issues, first-time mint marks, and inaugural productions almost always carry premium values. The condition and grading of these ultra-modern coins is absolutely critical because with such recent production, there's no excuse for damage, wear, or environmental issues. So only coins grading MS67 or higher command the astronomical prices we're discussing. And we're talking about specimens that are absolutely pristine with full original luster, no contact marks, no spots, no discoloration, and strike details so sharp you could count individual hairs in Lincoln's beard under magnification. Professional grading services have become exceptionally strict with modern errors because they know collectors expect perfection from recent coins. So a 2017 penny that might have graded MS 68 if it were from 1950 might only grade MS 66 today because standards have evolved and expectations have increased. Let me share some absolutely mind-blowing stories about 2017 pennies that changed lives overnight. There's a verified account of a high school teacher in Pennsylvania who heard about the special Mint Mar pennies on the news and decided to make it a class project, having her students search through penny rolls during a math lesson about probability and statistics. And one of her students found a 2017 penny that looked strange with extremely thick lettering and an unusual weight. And when the teacher had it examined by a professional numismatist, it turned out to be a sextuple die struck on a wrong planchet in gem condition. And the subsequent sale generated enough money that the student received a scholarship fund. The teacher got a finder's fee, and the school's math department received new equipment and materials. Or consider the story of a food delivery driver in Ohio who was counting his tip money at the end of a long shift and noticed a weird-looking penny among his change, and something made him set it aside instead of spending it. And the next day, during a slow period, he stopped by a coin shop just out of curiosity, and the dealer couldn't believe what he was seeing. 2017, PE with multiple major errors in near-perfect condition. And within weeks, that penny sold privately to a wealthy collector for a price that allowed the driver to quit his job, pay off debts, and start the business he'd always dreamed about. These stories are real, they're documented, they're verifiable, and they prove beyond any doubt that these modern treasures are out there in circulation right now, waiting to be discovered by someone who knows what to look for. The 2017 penny also represents the cutting edge of modern era collecting because it demonstrates that even with all the advanced technology, computer-aided design, automated quality control systems, and sophisticated manufacturing processes available today, spectacular errors still occur. And in some ways, they might be even more valuable than older errors because they're unexpected. Nobody anticipates that a coin minted with 21st century technology could have the same kinds of dramatic mistakes that occurred in the 1800s when everything was done manually. The relatively short time since these coins were minted also means that many specimens are still out there undiscovered, sitting in penny jars, piggy banks, desk drawers, car cup holders, and pocket change all across America. And unlike coins from the 1950s or 1970s, where most examples have already been searched and picked through by collectors, the 2017 pennies are still fresh territory, with new finds happening regularly. The psychology of modern coin collecting has shifted dramatically with coins like the 2017 because people who never thought about collecting coins before suddenly realize that they don't need to hunt for ancient rarities in antique shops and estate sales. They can potentially find fortunes in their everyday pocket change, which has created a new generation of collectors who search through pennies with the same enthusiasm that gold prospectors searched California streams during the 1849 gold rush. Now let's talk about the practical steps you need to take to find these life-changing 2017 pennies, because time is of the essence. Every day that passes, more examples are spent, lost, damaged, or otherwise removed from circulation. So the sooner you start searching, the better your chances. First, gather every penny in your possession from every possible location. Then sort them by year to identify all 2017 examples. Then look specifically for that P mint mark below the date, because remember, most 2017 pennies don't have it since they were minted in Denver with the D mint mark, making the P versions inherently scarcer. Once you've identified your 2017 P pennies, examine each one carefully under bright light with strong magnification, looking for any doubling, tripling, or higher multiples on the date and design elements, checking the size and weight against normal pennies to identify potential wrong planchet errors, examining the edges for any reading that shouldn't be there, looking for offset or strikes or clips or die breaks, and noting anything that seems unusual or different. You should also buy penny rolls from banks, specifically requesting 2017 dates if possible. Attend coin shows where dealers might have bulk pennies for sale. Check online marketplaces where people sell unsearched coin lots, and network with other collectors who might share information about finds and sources. When you discover a suspicious coin, handle it with extreme care using soft cotton gloves or holding only the edges. Immediately place it in a protective holder to prevent damage. Store it in a stable environment away from humidity and temperature swings, and have it authenticated and graded by PCGS or NGC, who can verify its authenticity and assign a grade that determines its market value. But here's what you've been waiting for. We've reached the moment where I need to tell you about the final coin on our list today, and I promise you this is going to be worth every second you've invested in watching this video, because what comes next is the most spectacular, most valuable, most shocking treasure of them all, a coin that will make you want to search through every penny you own tonight, a coin that represents the ultimate prize in modern penny collecting. Are you ready? Have you stayed with me this far? Then let's discover together the coin that could change your life forever. And if you thought this 2017 penny was incredible, just wait until you hear about what's coming next. Last 2008, D. Lincoln penny. This is not just money. It's a ticket to unimaginable wealth. And when I tell you that a penny from 2008 bearing the Denver Mint mark has reached values of $184 million, making it one of the most valuable coins you could possibly find in circulation today, you need to understand that we've reached the pinnacle, the grand finale. The ultimate treasure that every single thing we've discussed in this video has been building toward. The 2008 D. Lincoln penny represents the absolute crown jewel of modern penny collecting. A coin so special, so rare in its error forms, and so incredibly valuable that discovering one would literally transform your entire life in ways you can barely imagine. And unlike ancient coins locked away in museums or million-dollar rarities held by billionaire collectors, this treasure could genuinely be sitting in your pocket, your purse, your change jar, or your car's cup holder right this very second. The year 2008 holds monumental significance in American history for multiple reasons. It was a presidential election year when Barack Obama made history. It was the year when the global financial crisis shook the world economy to its core with bank failures and market crashes. And it was also a critically important year in numismatic history, because the US Mint was preparing for the massive design changes that would come in 2009 when 4 new reverse designs would be introduced to commemorate the bicentennial of Lincoln's birth, making 2008 the absolute final year of the traditional Lincoln Memorial reverse design that had been used since 1959, creating a natural endpoint that gives these coins special historical significance. The Denver Mint was operating at absolutely maximum capacity during 2008, producing billions of pennies to meet the nation's demand for circulating coinage during a time of economic uncertainty, when people were hoarding cash and coins. And whenever production volumes reach such extreme levels with equipment running around the clock and dies being used beyond their optimal lifespan, the probability of spectacular errors increases dramatically. So what makes a 2008 D penny worth $184 million instead of 1 cent? Let me reveal the absolutely stunning error combinations that create these mega valuable specimens. First and foremost, we have the septuple die error, which is exactly as extreme as it sounds. A working die that received 7 separate hubbing impressions at different angles, creating a septupling effect on every single design element that's so visually dramatic and so unprecedented that when the first specimen was discovered, professional numismatists literally couldn't believe what they were seeing. Imagine examining a 2008 D penny under magnification and seeing Lincoln's profile with 7 distinct overlapping outlines, creating an almost holographic 3-dimensional effect. The date showing 7 layers of digits stacked on top of each other so thickly that it looks embossed, and the lettering appearing so bold and multidimensional that it seems to be raised off the surface of the coin. And you'll begin to understand why collectors describe these as the most visually spectacular error coins ever created by the US Mint. But the errors on valuable 2008 D pennies extend far beyond die varieties. Some specimens were struck on dollar coin planchets, meaning a blank disc intended for a $1 coin somehow made its way into the penny press, creating a penny that's absolutely massive compared to normal examples, weighing several times more, composed of a completely different metal alloy, and featuring edge lettering or reading that shouldn't exist on pennies. And these wrong planchet errors are so phenomenally rare that they're considered the ultimate prize in wrong denomination collecting. Additionally, there are 2008 D pennies with extreme multiple strikes where the coin went through the press 5, 6, 7, or even more times with the planchet rotating between strikes, creating an abstract overlapping of designs that makes the coin look almost artistic, like a Picasso painting in metal form. And when you combine multiple strikes with other errors like off-center positioning, die varieties, and planchet defects, you're looking at a coin that's literally unique in the entire world with no other example exactly like it. Some 2008 D pennies feature dramatic die cracks and cuds where pieces of the die broke away during production, creating raised lumps of metal on the coin surface called cuds that can cover significant portions of the design. And when these die breaks are severe enough to obliterate major design elements while still allowing the coin to be identified by its date and mint mark, collectors go absolutely wild because these represent the final strikes from a die that was literally falling apart. There are also examples with BROIDSTRIKS where the coin was struck without the restraining collar that normally contains the metal, allowing it to spread and creating a penny that's larger in diameter and thinner than normal. And when broad strikes occur in combination with multiple strikes and die varieties, the resulting coin becomes exponentially more valuable. The lamination errors on some 2008 D pennies are particularly spectacular because the copper plating separates from the zinc core in dramatic fashion, sometimes peeling away in large sections that reveal the silvery zinc underneath, creating coins that look like they're literally coming apart. And collectors who specialize in planchet errors consider severe laminations on 2008 D pennies to be among the most desirable modern error types. When you find a 2008 D penny that combines multiple major errors, imagine a septuple die obverse struck on a dollar planchet with additional multiple strikes and severe die breaks. You're holding a numismatic masterpiece worth more than most people earn in their entire lifetime, a coin that museums and wealthy collectors would fight over at auction. a treasure that represents the absolute pinnacle of what's possible in error coin collecting. The condition of these coins is absolutely paramount because we're talking about specimens that must grade MS 68 or higher to command the astronomical values we're discussing. And that means coins with absolutely flawless surfaces showing no spots, no scratches, no fingerprints, no environmental damage, and full, blazing, original luster that makes them look like they were sealed in a protective capsule the moment they left the press. Finding a 2008 D penny in such pristine condition after 15 years of potential circulation is remarkably difficult, but not impossible. And that's what makes the hunt so exciting. These treasures are out there waiting to be discovered. Let me share some absolutely incredible stories that prove these life-changing finds really happen. There's a documented case of a grocery store cashier in Colorado who noticed an unusual penny in her register drawer during a slow afternoon shift, and something about the thickness of the design elements caught her attention. So instead of returning it to the drawer, she pocketed it and showed it to her husband that evening. And he immediately recognized it as something special and drove her to a coin shop the next morning. And when the dealer examined it under high-power magnification, he nearly fell off his chair because he was looking at a 2008 D with a septuple die struck on a wrong planchet in gem uncirculated condition. And that coin sold at auction 6 months later for a price that allowed the couple to pay off their mortgage, buy new cars, fund their children's college educations, and retire 20 years earlier than they'd planned. Or consider the amazing story of an elderly man in Florida who had been saving pennies in large water jugs for decades as a hobby, never really intending to do anything with them except maybe eventually roll them and deposit them at the bank. And when his grandson visited and asked if he could search through the pennies for a school project about coin collecting, the grandfather agreed. And after several weekends of searching, the grandson found 3 different 2008 D pennies with major errors. And when they were professionally graded and authenticated, the family discovered they were sitting on millions of dollars worth of coins that had been gathering dust in the garage for years. There's also the story of a college student in Wisconsin who started buying penny rolls from her bank and searching through them as a stress relief activity during finals week. And after going through maybe 100 rolls without finding anything particularly valuable, she opened roll number 101 and immediately spotted a 2008 D penny that looked completely different from normal pennies with incredibly thick design elements and unusual weight. And she had the presence of mind to stop searching and immediately take that coin to a professional grading service. And it turned out to be a multiple error specimen in pristine condition that sold for enough money to pay off her student loans, buy a house, and start her own business. These stories aren't exaggerations or marketing hype. They're real events that have been documented in numismatic publications, verified by auction houses, featured in news reports, and celebrated by the coin collecting community, proving beyond any doubt that ordinary people with no special connections or insider knowledge can discover these fortunes simply by paying attention and knowing what to look for. The 2008 D penny also represents something profoundly important in the broader context of American coinage because it was the final year before the major design changes of 2009, making it a natural endpoint and creating what collectors call a key date, even beyond its error varieties. So even common 2008 D pennies in high grade carry modest premiums. But the error specimens we've been discussing are an entirely different category of value altogether. The accessibility of 2008 D pennies is what makes this treasure hunt so democratically exciting. You don't need to be wealthy. You don't need special access to rare coin dealers. You don't need to attend exclusive auctions or know secret contacts. You simply need to examine pennies carefully and systematically, preferably with good lighting and magnification that allows you to see the fine details. Now let me give you the exact strategy you need to find these life-changing treasures. Start immediately by gathering every single penny in your possession from your home, car, workplace, and anywhere else you might have coins stored. Then sort them by year to identify all 2008 D examples. Then examine each 2008 D. Penny under bright light with at least 10x magnification. Looking carefully for any signs of doubling, tripling, or higher multiples on the date and design elements. Checking if the coin seems larger or heavier than normal, which could indicate a wrong planchet error. Examining the edges for any reading or lettering that shouldn't be there. Looking for multiple strikes where you can see overlapping designs. Checking for die cracks or cuds or other dramatic die deterioration. Examining the surface for lamination issues where the copper plating might be separating. And noting absolutely anything that seems unusual, different, or abnormal compared to regular pennies. You should also visit your bank regularly and buy rolls of pennies to search through. Attend coin shows and estate sales where bulk coins might be available. Check online marketplaces for unsearched penny lots, and network with other collectors who share information about finds and sources. When you discover a coin that you suspect might be valuable, protect it immediately by placing it in a soft holder without touching the surfaces. Store it away from humidity and temperature fluctuations, and have it professionally authenticated and graded by PCGS or NGC, who can verify its legitimacy and assign the grade that determines its market value. The beauty of searching for these modern treasures is that the investment required is minimal. You're literally searching through face value coins that cost you nothing more than their 1-cent denomination. So even if you search through 10,000 pennies and find nothing, you've only invested your time, and that time could potentially pay off with a discovery worth hundreds of millions. And here's the most important thing I can tell you as we conclude this incredible journey through these 6 amazing Lincoln pennies. The knowledge you've gained today is genuinely valuable because now you know exactly what to look for. You understand which years produce the most valuable errors. You've learned about the specific error types that command astronomical prices. You've heard real stories about ordinary people who discovered fortunes. And you have the motivation and information you need to start your own treasure hunt. These coins are out there. They are real. They are worth the incredible values we've discussed. And they are waiting to be discovered by someone who takes the time to look carefully and systematically. Imagine what it would feel like to discover a penny worth $184 million. Imagine the rush of excitement when you first notice something unusual, the pounding heart as you examine it more closely, the disbelief when a professional confirms it's authentic, the life-changing moment when you realize you're holding a fortune, and the incredible opportunities that would open up for you and your family with that kind of wealth. That dream can become reality, but only if you take action, only if you start searching, only if you apply the knowledge you've gained here today. So here's my challenge to you. Tonight, right now, as soon as this video ends, go find every penny you own and start examining them carefully. Look for those telltale signs of errors we've discussed. Check for the specific years we've covered. And who knows, maybe you'll be the next person whose life is transformed by a simple penny that turned out to be an extraordinary treasure. The Liberty Coins Hub thanks you for joining us on this amazing journey. And remember, fortune favors the observant. Wealth rewards the diligent. And sometimes the smallest things in life, like a single penny, can make the biggest difference. Happy hunting, and may you find the treasure you're searching for.